everybody. I'm Tree Kent with Defeat the Breach Coalition, and today I am so excited and beyond honored to interview Kristin Judge, CEO and founder of the Cybercrime Support Network. Kristin, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me, Tree. I'm really excited for the conversation too.
Awesome. So, Cybercrime Support Network. I'm so I can't even think of the word that your organization even exists. I'm both saddened, but to have this resource out there is incredible. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's so important. I didn't want to start a nonprofit in a space where other nonprofits were already living because I think we have too much competition for funding and attention in the nonprofit space. But I did see that there was a space open that no one was paying attention to. And that was what happens after someone's a victim of cybercrime. And we're talking about individuals and small businesses. They don't know where to go to get help. There isn't a lot of help available, and it's just not easy to find the help that is available. So I talked to so many victims that were frustrated with the process, with the lack of help, and it seemed like no one really was counting the victims or paying them much attention on a national or even global level. So we created CSN to serve individuals and small businesses that are impacted by cybercrime, very simply.
Yeah, you're so right. For a lot of years, it's kind of someone hacked my social media account, I changed my password, or there was the someone stole my credit card, and it used to be a daunting task to go through your bank and dispute a charge. Now that's easy, but a cybercrime today is nowhere what it used to be 5 years ago.
No, and it's growing. And in COVID, we're seeing a quadruple amount of reports being sent into FBI and FTC. So the amount of cybercrime happening right now, when everyone is so desperate and hurting and isolated, is just exploding.
Yeah. Kristen, have you seen a stigma around victims where they kind of don't want to come forward or they're not sure, if they're a small business legally, do I have to come forward? Or if they're like you said, an individual, who do I turn to? Because do I just call the police? Do you kind of see a stigma though around people not reporting?
Absolutely. There's so much shame around it. And one of the things I try and get people to do is stop saying that someone fell victim to cybercrime. People don't fall victim. They were a victim. Fall victim means there's something that they maybe did wrong. And I liken it to domestic violence victims back in the 1990s when they did the Violence Against Women Act. No one really talked about domestic violence. Those victims really stayed in the shadows. But then there was federal money to serve them and count and figure out what they needed. And we started talking about it. And the federal funds started growing and growing so that more money was available to treat these victims. And they were coming out strong and saying, you know what, this isn't this is not because of me. This is because of the abuser. And they felt empowered. And I really see cybercrime victims going along that same path. Now that we're giving them a voice, we're talking to Congress, we're trying to count more of them, and we're going to bring them out. The first person who ever called 211 in Rhode Island, where we have a pilot going, he was a 72-year-old man, and he said, "Now I don't feel so stupid." And he
Oh
was
my.
really stupid. And the call taker, convinced him, "Don't worry, this happens to a lot of people. You've done this and this right already. Now let's work on these two things." And there's a lot of shame that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have clicked. I should have known better. A lot of should haves.
Wow, you're right. So 211, you're piloting kind of like a 911 emergency, correct? So it's
In
still
states.
in the
Yeah.
works. Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw a statistic that 1 in 4 people are a victim of a cybercrime, which compared to an actual emergency, I mean, that statistic is scary. Very, very scary.
Well, and what we estimate is that's just, 1 in 4 adult Americans. So the loss every year, if we do the math, is around 340 billion with a B
My goodness.
dollars every year to the American economy. Don't think about just one person lost some money. They now can't spend money at the grocery store, at the convenience store, wherever it may be. They can't have money to pay their bills, and the electric company suffers. And so, everybody is impacted if $340 billion is taken out of the US economy every year.
Wow. Wow. Do you see this getting worse in what you're seeing now for trends?
I've had this light bulb go off about a week and a half ago. where I realized the only way we're going to stop cybercrime is if we can stop it from being profitable.
Oh,
Criminals,
that's what
you
it
know,
comes
think
down
about
to.
it. Yeah. So if the criminals are continuing to make billions and billions of dollars, nothing's going to stop them. But if we can get people to react differently and understand before they give money what's happening and it's not as profitable, that's the only way it's going to go away. And I just had that thought just came to me, like we have to make it so it's not profitable. And the only way to do that is to take care of the people and stop them from being re-victimized. We probably can't
Mhm.
stop them from being a victim the first time, because until someone is a first victim, they don't really necessarily understand the importance of two-factor authentication or different things. But once they've been a victim, we're finding that 90% of the people that come to us after they've been a victim and then they learn more and they talk to somebody, they say, I don't think I'm going to be a victim again. And
Mhm.
that's where we can make the difference, is stopping re-victimization.
Yeah, that's huge. We see that here, with IT, where it takes an act for, or some sort of unauthorized access for someone to say, "Okay, wait, what can I do to lock everything down?" And by then it's, sometimes it's too late. Did they already get in your castle, and what have they received? So the re-victimizing is a huge crucial step, huge crucial step.
Yeah, I spent over 10 years in prevention and awareness, and we can't stop doing it. It's incredibly important. But I saw how much it doesn't work. But I
Mhm.
then saw people, once they had been a victim, the first time I started using two factor is after my PayPal got hacked. And PayPal said, "Oh, will you put two factor?" I'm like, "Sure, you tell me whatever I need to do so I
Yep,
don't buy some stranger an iPad that I didn't plan on buying them." So
right.
there's something about the way we think that once we've been a victim, we're like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously now.
So, with the support that people receive when they contact you guys go through the steps of how to not become a re-victim. What other type of support do they receive?
Yeah, so if you look at fraudsupport.org, that's the best way to answer this question. So,
Okay.
people that are going to our 211 operators in those select states, New Jersey, Carolina, Mississippi, Rhode Island, West Michigan, and Central Florida, people there can call 211 and get help from a call taker at the 211 centers. What they do mainly is they look at fraudsupport.org and they say, here's some first steps you can take right now. This is what you should do after this type of crime. There's 40 different crime types on fraudsupport.org. And then they say, all right, here is how you report. It's really important that we get more people to report so we can show Congress what's really happening. And then here's some recovery steps. Based on what's happened to you, there are a lot of good resources out there on how to recover. It doesn't mean you necessarily always get your money back, but depending on how much you've lost, if you do get to the FBI and you've lost $100,000 in the past 24 hours, they may be able to recover your money. And then the reinforcing your security after you've been a victim. That's where the education and the changing of security posture comes. And that's all on fraud support, where over 700,000 people have already come to get help.
Wow, that's a huge number already.
Yeah.
So, what would you say for someone who has not been a victim yet? Is the number one thing today, turn around, leave this watching this interview and do? What would be that one thing?
Thank you for asking. Microsoft had an article that said 99.9% of malicious activity through your email can be stopped with two factor authentication. I would say if everybody used two factor authentication, or if the companies made it opt out instead of opt in, like banks do, right now, if
Mhm.
you go to your bank, anybody does online banking, you have to put in a code that's either sent to your phone or an authenticator, because that's the most secure way to do it. And we need to tell companies, we want that on our email, we want that on our Facebook, we want it on everything. So add two factor authentication to your accounts. And if you don't know how, go to twofactorauth.org, and there's step-by-step instructions.
Oh, what a wonderful resource.
Yeah.
Kristen, I have to ask, there's not very many women in cybersecurity. Not very many people in your field, as you said, as a nonprofit and helping cyber victims. What personally brought you to this?
So I was an elected official in Michigan, and I was currently working with the former White House and DHS on education and awareness, teaching elected officials about their role in cybersecurity. And this was back in 2009 and 10. And I had a constituent call me and say, my sister's being impacted on Facebook. What do I do? And so I called the sheriff right away. It was a Friday night at 8 o'clock, and I'm friends with the sheriff. I called him and said, where do I send this person? And he paused and he said, well, Kevin knows a lot about computers. And I said, no, no, no.
Oh
Like,
my.
where's the law enforcement response? And I realized there was none. And so it was in 2011 when I said, we need to find a national number for people to call to get help, because they don't know where to go and I don't know where to send them when they call me as an elected official. And other countries have this. Israel has 119 for cybercrime. The UK has the UK Action Fraud Network. Australia has Report Cyber, where someone actually helps people. So what we're doing is working with Congress now to make sure that we get that type of a national program in the US. So I'm really confident in the next 2 years, we'll have that type of program in the US.
I hope so. I really hope so. I know here we've been kind of liking um, cybercrime and viruses as kind of a pandemic similar to COVID, where we talk a lot about herd immunity. And I think that you nailed it, which is profitability. Quit making it so easy. So if everyone came together, businesses, and had ethical decisions behind, we are going to ensure two factors available on our platform, and that's it's mandatory just from our standpoint, and kind of increasing this overall herd immunity, that we would see this decrease. Do you have like thoughts on that as well? Has that been talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a few things that we can get everybody to do. But I've spent the last 10, 12 years trying to get people to add two-factor authentication to their accounts. And what I find is even some of my brightest friends who run big companies, they'd say, will you come over and help me add it to my account? Because they think it's going to be complex and something about an IT person would do. It's not. It's no different than a deadbolt on your front door, and you know how to turn that every day. It's that simple, but people think cybersecurity is an IT thing, and it's not. It's a risk management issue, and everybody's capable of putting two-factor on their accounts. It takes literally 30 seconds. So my goal over time is to get companies to require 2FA. I'm a little bit tired of them saying that customers don't want the friction of 2FA. They're afraid people will go to another. I think customers don't want the friction of being a victim anymore.
I was just gonna say I'm the opposite, saying please have two-factor
Yeah,
authentication. It's kind of having that old school security trust mark on websites before you purchase something. You wanted to make sure it was secure before you put your credit card in. Now it's like consumers, people require that they have two-factor authentication, demand that they protect your identity, your data, your information. That should be coming from us and vocalizing it, saying, I'm not doing business with you unless you take it serious.
that's right. And so I really want to get to the message to the companies that the public really wants them to keep them safe. And if you know that 2FA is going to make someone 99% more secure, then let's add it in right
Hmm.
away. I don't think we'll lose
Absolutely.
customers. The customers sort of need to be forced to be more secure. I think we've been trying to ask of our local law enforcement to handle these cyber crimes when, number one, they don't have the training. Number two, they don't have the tools a lot of times. And number three, they don't have the staff, the numbers of bodies. And I get a little tired when I hear people say, oh, well, let's just train our law enforcement. They should be able to handle it. Well, but are you just going to train the people that are already there? Or are you going to give them more people that have specific forensics training? Because just giving people that are already really busy with what they have on their plate a new thing that they have no background in, it's not working. And so we
And
need to
isn't there
start.
jurisdiction issues? Like, if I'm a victim of a cyber crime from an organization out of the country, whose role is it to, proceed and go forward with that? Is it my state police? Is it the FBI? Or is it that country that needs to take over and we pass the baton? This is why we're all in this together. If we're all connected online, we're kind of all in it. But I mean, how often do victims truly find the culprit, and how much are they actually led to prosecution and things like that?
According to Third Way, it's about 0.0003% or something like that.
That
So
was There was a point and too many O's
yeah,
for
could,
that.
I could be off by an O. I don't know, but I'm working with the World Economic Forum, the Cyber Peace Institute, Interpol, Europol are at these tables. Third Way, New York Cyber Task Force. There's a lot of great organizations, and I'm so proud and honored to be a part of these working groups that are addressing this exact question. And there's a lot of interest in Congress. I talk to congressional leaders all the time about the need for jurisdictional boundaries. I was in a meeting with FBI, a sheriff's office, and state police one time, and they said, do you have the mapping for the jurisdictional boundaries? Maybe you could work on creating that. Like, no, that's my pay grade, but I will talk to people in Congress about it. So I think we're going to get there in the next couple years. The Cyberspace Solarium Commission is working very hard on this, and they've got a lot of good recommendations for Congress. So we're making progress, but I think CSN has made enough noise that people are listening and concerned about the victims now, and I see that as our number one priority.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Kristin, thank you so much for this joining us today. This has been an incredible, informative interview. So many amazing resources. Everything will be linked to those below as well, along with the link to the Cybercrime Support Network's website. Again, Kristin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Tree. It was such a pleasure.